cheers, Paul, and cheers to the Resources Rising Stars team for putting this event on. So as Paul alluded to, we've just taken the option to acquire 2 gold projects in the US to complement the copper we had in our portfolio. So this is probably as close as you'll get to Kalgoorlie outside Australia. This is in the Nevada project that we're about to drill on next month. Quick disclaimer. Board management, so 3 geos running an exploration company. Some great minds in there. Rob Jewson, he vended the Bellevue asset into what is the now Bellevue producing gold mine. Simon, obviously coming off the back of the Ramelius Spartan merger, and myself spent a lot of time in the School of Hard Rocks with Northern Star, developing a lot of their assets. A bit of a corporate overview, so a very tight register, 380 on issue, a few more going out tomorrow with the acquisition of the gold projects. Market cap of around 33 million. Largest shareholder was actually the vendor of the Skyline asset as well, who's happy to be along for the ride. Key value drivers for us at the moment is obviously these 2 gold assets in what is a very emerging market in the US. So we targeted gold assets that are in the shadows of giants that had the potential for scalability. We're also unlocking the provincial scale VMS potential at Skyline up in Newfoundland, Canada. With systematic exploration and modern science targeting these deposits. We've also got a compelling world-class asset potentially in Peru. We're teamed up with the BHP Explore team there, who are providing us a lot of technical support, business support, as well as funding to do the exploration programs. And we're nearing the end of that process, and we look forward to updating the market on all those results as they come available. We've got a few assets in the portfolio, but all of them we like to bring through, from acquisition to monetisation. I've put myself out of a job in my last 2 companies with being the target of an M&A target, and we're happy to move assets on if the market's right and we can get value for shareholders. So we've got multiple programs underway across the portfolio. It allows flexibility of markets and when we can get on the ground and get rigs and machines working. So firstly, I'll start with the gold projects in the US. So Nevada and South Dakota, 2 pretty prolific gold producing states. First one being Nevada. So 70% of the gold last year in the US came out of Nevada. We're in the Walker Lane trend, which is one of the 4 big trends in Nevada. A lot of the big boys are there. You've got Anglo Tech, Kinross, Centerra. They're all companies that don't play in the ASX space typically or in Australia. So big multinational companies with big deposits in this part of the world. In contrast to the other trends in Nevada, the Walker Lane trend is actually slightly higher grade. Fraser Institute actually just released their latest analysis, and Nevada came in as the best place in the US to do business in terms of investability for assets. So it's a great jurisdiction, very supportive of mining. The project itself, Excelsior Springs, we've actually added to that land package already with the opportunities we saw driven by the geophysics and the geochemistry in the area. So the Buster trend is actually extended to 5 kilometres. That's been drilled, that's been targeted. That was the focus of the previous owners who were TSX listed. They weren't getting the support of the market. So we put the value proposition that bring it to the ASX, and we can get that support that the Australian market does bring to gold assets. We've also got the Blue Dick trend, which I'll cover off on shortly, which is just to the southwest. So we've already expanded the tenement package there. The geochemistry, the geophysics supported that. The porphyry intrusive corridor off to the east is actually aligns with what we're seeing in the rest of the belt in terms of the intrusive-driven mineralogy and the Carlin-style deposits that we see in this part of the world. We've got the potential for an intrusive driving huge scale, but also the luxury of having a structural overprint, which is the Buster trend, which is actually a high-grade core, which has got some amazing results. So, 51-metre drill hole at 4 grams, anywhere in this part of the world would just be phenomenal. In the process of acquiring this, new land, we've actually got people out there mapping as well, and they're finding old shafts that have never been reported on. There's no production records on, but there's significant effort been put into these, these adits into the side of these hills. So it's an exciting boots on ground, just organic growth. That was unclaimed land when we put our pegs in there. The corridor itself, you can see it from space. It's a huge alteration corridor, up to 400 metres wide. 5 kilometres and growing at the moment. So next month we'll start diamond drilling. Never been done on that project, so get a good idea of what the ore actually looks like, what the minerals look like in there, and actual structural control on what's happening there in the structure-related gold. And then RC drilling to actually expand the current drilling that's been there. There's a few holes that we want to sort of plug in the recent drilling that's been done, and that'll really allow us to put our foot on it and aiming for a maiden resource on this project in Q4 this year. Jumping north to Middle America, South Dakota. So the name up there, Homestake Mine, was the namesake of the Homestake company. So 42 million ounces produced at 8.5 grams. So the pit itself is quite small. In the best parts of that mine, it was 20,000 ounces of vertical metre, 19 ledges ranging from 1 to 7 to 9 million ounces on those ones. So a lot of grade accumulates very quickly in these type of deposits. You've got two other miners in the area, the Wharf Mine with Kerr Mining, that's currently active. Dakota Gold have got the Richmond Hill Mine, which is currently in the late stages of permitting. So they've been mining there for 145 years. What we have is a detached part of the banded iron package that the Homestake and the Maitland, Richmond and Wharf Mine are all hosted in. Huge endowment already in the area with 85 million ounces, and again, potential for scalability. We've got the opportunity to define potentially multi-million ounces of deposits here. A lot of the work has actually been limited due to the company it was in being underfunded to surface mapping. There is some drilling on the standby mine, a historic mine with 3 open pits and a substantial underground. So 50,000 ounces was pulled out of that in the turn of the century. But nothing meaningful has happened on the ground since. There's been a lot of very good work in detailed mapping, data acquisition, data compilation. So, tens of millions of dollars have been spent compiling this land package and the data associated with it to give us what is 7 already high priority targets. And we're going through the process of actually refining those targets as to what we think is the best one and the one worth investing in the drill bit for. An example of this is the Jackpot Trend. So this is 20 kilometres from Homestake, 2.5 kilometres of high-grade rock chip samples, underground mapping, old shafts that produced. Again, this is another area that, you just got to walk the ground and you'll find more and more mining disturbances to show the work that's been done. So, there's significant grade there. One of the mines inspectors back in 1934, pulled a 3,700 gram rock out of one of these underground mines. So the opportunity on that one alone is huge. If that's one of these ledges, the smallest one at Homestake was 1 million ounces. And it lights up with geophysics as well. So this is pyrrhotite associated with the banded iron. So Bellevue was targeted that way. Torque Minerals is doing it at the moment in the Parish project. It's an easy remote sensing tool that actually lights up where the ore is being hosted. So at the moment, we're reprocessing all the work that has been done. Like I said, there's been significant money invested in this project already, consolidating that and actually trying to do a direct targeting model. And we should be getting on ground next month as well with a bit more mapping, actually really define what that looks like. We'll now jump to the copper project, so Skyline up in Newfoundland and the Pecha project in Peru. So Newfoundland's been put on the map more recently with Firefly Metals, with their Green Bay project up there, another great VMS project that shows that they are still out there, the work just needs to be done. We're down the road, we're in a slightly different sequence, still high-grade VMS. Ours is typically higher grade with a deposit model and has zinc and silver credits associated with it as well. The state itself is investing heavily in mining infrastructure, support for miners, and it's a very blue-collar working environment. They're happy to see any work done. They see the value proposition it brings to the state, so they actually encourage investment. Permitting timeframes very quick as well. So Cyprus-style deposit, obviously originated in Cyprus. That was the first copper ore mined of the highest grade. The Troodos ophiolite in Cyprus hosts up to 17 million ounces at 4.5% copper. So these are high grade, lots of metal accumulates very quickly in these types of deposits. So the massive lenses will sit in a pillow sequence of lavas, and we're targeting it with modern geophysics. So we've got 7 targets that we've defined. One of them, the York Harbour mine, that one's been drilled. The governor's target, we've just done some 3D IP over, which will give us direct drill targets with the results of that expected next month. And Earl's target, we discovered sort of last month, a bit of a boots-on-ground geology, people out there mapping, observing sulphides, sampling it, and we got grades of up to 18% copper. That fits in very nicely with the deposit model. That's a pure copper sample, that one, with very little of anything else in it. So it speaks to where we are in the sequence, and that's, the target of moving forward of where these other deposits sit as well to the south. We'll now jump down to Peru. So if we're talking scale, there's nothing bigger than a porphyry in terms of a deposit class. I came into the company middle of last year, liked the look of what they were doing down there, but they weren't looking at it the right way. So if we're trying to find porphyries, then we need to think like a major and how they actually find these things. So pitched it to the BHP team through the Explore program. They liked it, they liked the area, they liked Peru, they want more exposure there. So it was a case of using their expertise. They're very good at finding porphyries, that's proven, and leveraging off our land position there. And prior to Firetail, it was a very untouched, lightly touched area of the world. So I've got a team in country, working the ground constantly. So we're out there, engaging with the local community. Social license is critically important in that part of the world. And for Peru, mining's in their blood. That's a huge part of their GDP and a lot of their exports. The Peacher project itself, so obviously targeting intrusive related copper, so porphyries, strata-bound. Coming through this volcanic sequence, we've got something that has all the hallmarks of a porphyry system. With the BHP funding and support, we did a property-wide UAV magnetics program, which we've put the results out on. We're waiting on the results from a magnetotelluric system survey that actually will show us the architecture down to about 10 kilometres about what's feeding the copper that we are seeing at surface. So we know we've got copper at surface that's been proven by previous drill programs. Surface sampling, it's what's driving that system. So we think we've found that target up at Antiquilca. Some beautiful terrain there, very supportive of mining again. This is very untouched ground. So, key reasons to invest. Key value driver at the moment is the drilling. We're going into Nevada next month, diamond and RC drilling, and that'll underpin that resource that we're planning for Q4 this year. There's huge potential there, and I think we're only scratching the surface. Skyline, again, it's one of those things we're only scratching the surface. We've only advanced 3 to a point where we want to put a drill bit into it, but we've already got 7, and that's only half the land package that we're dealing with up there. So, that is a district scale deposit sequence that we're working with. Peacher, Peru, so with the help of BHP developing that one, we've taken leaps and bounds from where we were 12 months ago to where it is now. We've got a lot of conviction and drive about what we see at that project and the potential it has to deliver to the market. And down in Bella in South Dakota, it's been fragmented for so long. For the first time, we're actually pulling all the data into one spot, doing multifaceted analysis of what the good targets are, what's driving the mineral systems in each one of these targets we've got down there, and all going well, get a drill rig on there as soon as possible to replicate at least a small part of what they had at Homestake. There's a lot more technical backing around the rest of this, so if anyone wants to talk about rocks a bit more than welcome.